2024 is almost here. Yesterday I talked about my favorite Star Wars stories of 2023. Well, today I wanted to get more specific and discuss my top 10 Star Wars story moments of the year. I'm saying it's a top 10 list, but they're not in any particular order except for the last two. And I also tried to limit the list to one moment per story to keep this video nice and varied. So let's dive in. Actually, first I need to give an honorable mention to all of Star Wars Celebration Europe. Obviously that's not a story, but I love Celebration, and it was certainly a top moment for me as a fan. Getting to be in a big room full of Star Wars fans cheering for the latest announcements is a blast. Staying up late with all our Star Wars friends is a blast. And of course, getting the chance to meet up with all of you is a blast. We're still trying to figure out if we can make Japan, but we're saving up for it, and we have a year, so fingers crossed. Star Wars Celebration is always amazing, and a good reminder that the loud, very online part of the fandom is not a good indicator of reality. But now, let's dive into some stories. I'm going to start with a comic moment from Star Wars issue 35 by Charles Soule. Luke meets up with a kyber crystal expert who asks him to attempt to purify a red crystal. He does it, but in the process has a vision of the Sith who originally bled it. I was not expecting to see anything like that, and I'm excited to know that same Sith character will be making more appearances in future comic issues. Sticking with some comics, I kinda want to count the entirety of Shadows of Starlight issue 1 as one single moment, because the whole thing was awesome. The Guardian protocols, the changes in lightsaber designs, it's all great stuff, but I'm going to specifically highlight the revelation of Aslan Rel. For fans who haven't been keeping up with the High Republic, Rel was a character from Phase 2 where we saw him lose his mind. He has since fallen to the dark side, removed his eyes, and found a way to prolong his life for hundreds of years. His appearance answered a question that was set up at the end of Phase 1. It was a satisfying answer after Phase 2, but it was also completely terrifying. Moving on to another High Republic comic, I loved a moment from issue 6 of the main Phase 2 series by Cavan Scott. Vildar Mak is trapped under some rubble during the Battle of Jedha. He alone is using the Force to keep it from crushing himself and several members of the Path of the Open Hand, a cult that believes using the Force is evil. He struggles to succeed until a bunch of Guardians of the Whills come and offer their support. They can't use the Force, but they start chanting, "I am one with the Force and the Force is with me," with Vildar, and even some of the members of the Path join in, giving the Jedi the strength to save the day. It's so well written and well drawn, it gives me chills just thinking about it. We're going to keep sticking in the High Republic because I love those books and comics, and a lot of stories came out in that era. Now we're talking about the Battle of Dalna, which was told throughout the books Quest for Planet X by Tessa Gratton, Path of Vengeance by Cavan Scott, and Cataclysm by Lydia Kang. It was really cool reading about the climax of Phase 2 in 3 separate stories. You could get a clear enough picture reading just one of the books, but as someone who reads everything, it was cool to see them all working together for the complete battle. I especially loved Lydia Kang's perspectives in Cataclysm. We've been hearing about the Battle of Dalna and the Night of Sorrows since early in Phase 1, so it was great seeing the truth of it all. I enjoyed Phase 2 of the High Republic, but I also missed all the characters that were originally established in Phase 1. Right at the end of 2023 in November, we got to return to them as Phase 3 released its first novel, The Eye of Darkness by George Mann. Since it came out less than 2 months ago, I won't go into specific moments for fear of spoilers. I was just thrilled to catch up with a bunch of characters I had been missing, and even the ones that weren't featured in the book got some mentions and hints as to what they were up to. I love these stories so much. Which will take us to my last High Republic shoutout and also transition us into television, because I was thrilled to see multiple episodes of Young Jedi adventures including book and comic characters. I'll specifically highlight the episode Charhound Chase, which saw Bell Zettifar, Loden Greatstorm, and Ember. Yes, it's cool to see them all walking and talking on screen, but I loved Bell's relationship with the youngling Kai. Seeing Bell get to mentor a child and use some of the exact same lessons he learned from Loden was really special to me. My headcanon, until proven otherwise, is that Kai will eventually become Bell's Padawan. Nothing would make me happier. Okay, let's shift into more animation, this time with The Bad Batch. There were a lot of great episodes this season, but The Outpost has to be my standout of the year. Crosshair didn't get a lot of time to shine, but man, when he popped up, you knew the episode was going to be great. I compared him to the Smoking Man in The X-Files in that way. In just 20 minutes, we saw Crosshair start to turn his Imperial life around in a believable way, because we met one of the worst Imperial characters that's ever been created, and that was not a low bar. But Lieutenant Nolan was awful, and seeing Crosshair blast him was one of the most satisfying Star Wars moments of the year. Jumping into some live action stories, let's talk about Ahsoka, which is fitting because it took a lot of animated characters and translated them into live action for the first time. It was tough to pick out a single moment from this series because there was a lot to love. Thrawn's introduction, Night Sister magic, Death Troopers, literally everything Baylan Skoll did, and of course Anakin and Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds. But I'm gonna choose to highlight Eamon Esfandi's Ezra because I was not expecting to love this version of the character as much as I did, and it really comes down to his first fight. I was curious to see if he would want his old lightsaber back and how that would be handled. The fact that he told Sabine to keep it because he was just going to use the Force was awesome. I loved that fight, and I love Eamon Esfandi as Ezra. Okay, I had all those moments numbered 10 through 3, but honestly they weren't in any order. They're all just standout moments from the year that I loved, and I wrote them in an order that would flow. But these last two, I know for sure, were my two favorite Star Wars moments of the year. Coming in at number 2, it's Kelleran Beq in The Mandalorian. That moment meant so much to me on so many levels. I never, ever would have guessed he was the Jedi Master who saved Grogu, but it makes so much sense if you watch Jedi Temple Challenge of all things, which obviously not everyone did, but when it was coming out during the pandemic, Molly and I watched it every week. I thought it would be cute and all, but we got really invested, and Kelleran Beq was charming and funny as the host, and it was nice to see Ahmed Best as a Jedi Master making jokes about how his nickname was the Sabered Hand, but then to see him actually showing off those skills protecting Grogu, phenomenal. Best is a talented martial artist, and he's worked on Star Wars choreography on several projects. It felt rewarding to me as a fan who watches everything, but it was also rewarding as someone who was 12 when The Phantom Menace came out. Articles then started to pop up talking about the redemption of Ahmed Best, which I really disliked because he never needed redemption. The Star Wars fandom did. This was like a second chance to celebrate this actor who deserved it from the start. I love everything about Kelleran Beq in The Mandalorian. And for my number 1 pick of the year, I chose it from my favorite Star Wars story of the year, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I loved this game, and it gave me one of my all-time favorite gaming moments, flying around with Merrin using Night Sister magic on Jedha. Holy cow, I wish I had a camera on me when I was playing this part. I'm not much of a shipper, but I do ship Cal and Merrin. A Jedi and a Night Sister, they should be mortal enemies, but they're bonded by the fact that they are survivors, and they share their first kiss before quite literally diving headfirst into mortal danger, and that alone had me pumping my fist. But then that magic sequence was incredible. It's exciting and cinematic. It's not that difficult, but it's just difficult enough to make you feel like one slip up and you're dead. Using Night Sister magic in conjunction with the Force felt amazing. I remember I was sitting on the couch playing, and this started happening, and I stood up out of my seat and screamed for Molly to get downstairs to see it because she loves Night Sister stuff. I could go on and on about this scene forever, but I'll just say it was a wonderful part of a wonderful story and one of my favorite gameplay experiences of all time. So that brings me to the end of my list, my top 10 Star Wars moments of 2023. Now it's time to let me know what your favorite moments were. What didn't I talk about that you want to highlight? Put them all in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, may the Force be with you, and have a very happy new year.